I'm really excited about the iPad. I remember thinking this about 2 years ago when they added like drag and drop kind of functionality to the iPad, and I remember thinking like this is going to be a game changer. There's going to be so many more apps doing interesting things on this platform, and everyone's going to find like innovative uses for it. It kind of didn't really happen, and like as an iPad owner myself, like I never really learned the gestures, and there's still things that I don't quite know, like like it's not second nature to go and dock apps side by side and that sort of thing, and that's been there for ages.
Yeah.
However, I'm like super excited and optimistic about the future of iPad right now, and that is because they have essentially made it so that any iPad app is going to be able to run on a Mac, for one thing. This is one thing that they've done, which is pretty wild because they're built with completely different tools, and Mac has been around a long time and has a very different set of tools. It's a bit older, a bit harder to use, so it hasn't been as like attractive for developers to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And now they've kind of like opened it up so that,
and I guess there's a lot more apps.
iPad apps on there.
I don't know the stats exactly, but there's probably more apps for iPad out there than there's apps for Mac, at least in the official Apple Store.
Yeah, it could be.
This is an assumption, but so all the games that were put out for iPad and all the apps that were optimized for the iPad can potentially now be Mac apps.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that, but mainly I think, so this was something that was like talked about maybe a year ago. There were signs that this was coming, and they were sort of preparing app developers to think about putting their stuff on the Mac.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I just thought it was all about iPhone apps. And
same.
It's actually not about iPhone apps. I don't think this works for iPhone apps necessarily. Their focus has been like, if you make a good Mac app, a good iPad app, then it takes very little time for you to make that available on the Mac. And I think that that's going to flow the other way.
They think that's going to separate the iPad's operating system.
Yeah, they did. It's called iPad OS now.
So previously iOS was iPhone and iPad. Now iOS is just iPhone and iPod. And iPad has its own OS, just called iPad OS. Like, if you get really technical, it's kind of the same thing, but they're just giving it a new, because it has its own special attributes, and iPad has always had that. So you have the app docking on the side and all these gestures that you didn't have on the iPhone. Yeah, it's always been a little bit different from iPhone, but now it's got its own name, and it's definitely something different.
So I see all of this as like a really strong sign for like the maturity of iPad, I guess. And
iPad as a platform is maturing, and
So for example, like something you can do around like productivity, if you're trying to use the iPad, you can have multiple windows for your apps now. And the example they gave was like a note-taking app where normally it's either full screen with one note at a time, or it's off to the side with one note at a time. Or now you can actually open up a second window, which is going to feel a lot more like a Mac app.
Yeah, and that's really great.
Beyond the second window, you can have as many as you like.
And you can drag and drop things from one app to another app on the same screen.
Yeah.
They've introduced some cool things like 3-finger pinch to copy.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing.
3-finger gesture to paste.
That's the sort of thing that like I was talking about before, where unless you kind of get shown that straight away, you're probably going to forget it.
What I won't forget though is the undo thing. Because previously, if you made a mistake while typing something, if you wanted to undo, you had to shake your iPad, and pretty much you look like a crazy person.
Not a great idea.
If you're like at a coffee shop or the library or somewhere at a workplace, trying to look professional, and then you start shaking your device,
and it never works the first time, right? Because you're trying to be subtle, and you're like, and then you're like, it's not freaking working, and then you have to take it to the next level.
But now it's a 3-finger swipe.
Yeah,
to the side,
if you can remember it,
and you can just undo it.
So you can already do like a 4 or 5-finger swipe or something to move between full screen apps.
Between apps.
Every now and then I rediscover that, and I'm like, Who knew you could do
And
that?
it was really cool. The thing where you can have like a side app that's like a thinner app on the side.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called officially. But then they did the iPhone thing. The
you can
iPhone
switch
10
apps
thing,
between it.
where it had the bar and you can just switch between the apps. That's pretty cool. And I think that's going to be really handy.
Yeah. So the other thing that's really handy and I think opens up a lot of doors about this is this thing they're calling Sidecar.
Oh, yeah.
Which allows you to pair your iPad with a Mac. And so it's a second screen, but it goes beyond that.
Your iPad becomes a second screen to your Mac.
That's right. Yeah. And it goes beyond that because you can have a Mac app that sort of supports this and allows you to use it as a drawing surface.
Yeah.
So it's as if you've got like a Wacom tablet or something.
It totally killed the Wacom tablet industry.
Well, I mean, there's definitely bigger products.
The Apple Pencil is so much better.
It's very cool.
Than the tablets.
I'm really excited about this because I will definitely use that. That's why I own an iPad. And you're always dealing with this separate universe and you're going to move things between them. So hopefully that will open up some doors.
Talking to professionals in the space, people who draw with a pen and a tablet on the computer, they've always said that, the Apple Pencil is better. Its only downside is that it's just on the iPad and they can't use it on the PC. That's why they go and buy the Wacom tablets.
Yeah.
And now they don't have to do that anymore because they can just use their iPad, they can use the pencil, and it hooks up to the PC and everything's good. So that's a game changer.